Welcome back, everyone. Let's move on to the next step, our second Civil 3D object to create. If we look down here in the lower left portion of this record of survey, we can see, or site plan, sorry, we can see we have some kind of center alignment, and this would be used for the center of a road, and then a 10-foot offset to either side, which sets off the edge of pavement. So we're going to create an alignment for the center of our road, and then we're going to create two more offset alignments from the center line. So let's do that. So I'm working in my active viewport. So in other words, I'm working in, you could work here or you could work in model space either place. Let me just highlight, if I go to model space, in this particular case, I just used the offset command and then I lengthened this line, making sure it stayed parallel to the original kind of parcel line. And I extended it far enough so that I know it's going to extend outside of my active viewport. And I just kind of drew some lines and extended it. So in this particular case, you're going to start to see a repetitive pattern, right? So we're creating an alignment, and I'm going to choose the option Create Alignment from Objects. That is the really common theme here. Any of these civil objects that we're creating, we want to already have a base of AutoCAD and then create that civil object from some basic AutoCAD object. So let me repeat that. I'm creating an alignment. I choose the selection arrow, and I come down and I choose Create Alignment from Objects. Civil 3D is simply asking me to select any pre-existing object. I'm going to select this line and press Enter. And I'm going to get a pretty reasonable dialog box. I guess the first question it's asking me, let's see if I can get it to show in this screen. There it is. I get an arrow here, and I'm going to click reverse, and we'll see that I don't think we'll see the arrow change, but I'm going to move directly from here to the dialog box. Oh, good, we see the arrow change. So if I had simply pressed enter, the arrow would stay the same, and I'd get this dialog box. We'll discuss that later, but it shows the direction of counting labels here. Doesn't make sense now. Save it for a couple weeks. It'll make sense later. So what do we want to name this thing? Let me see if I pull up the PDF version and notice that it's 103rd Street. So in Civil 3D, I'll just go ahead and name this. I hope it was 103rd Street. Might as well name it what it's going to be in the real world. It is a center. And what site do I want to put on? Well, I need to put it on a site. I have to make a choice here. So I'm going to put it on my 88 block 700. And I'm going to choose that this is an existing road. It's not new. And let's see, I'm never going to have to worry about my label. I'm sorry, about my layers. Civil 3D takes care of those. So for these labels, I'm going to choose, and let's choose major and minor only, and we'll see what that result gives us. We don't need to add curves, right? We don't have any curves here. And I don't want to erase existing entities. So whenever we create a civil object, we'll get one of these dialog boxes. So I'm going to click OK. And we can see on the screen that I've kind of got this red line. This says 1 plus 0, 0. There's a little check mark there. And if I zoom out, I can see that's what I get. I'm going to navigate to model space and show that actually at the beginning of this line, it says 0. Then I have a hash mark. My next hash mark says 1 plus 0, 0. So this is dimensioning the length of this line. It starts at 0. By the way, this is halfway, so it goes to 50 feet, and I get a number at 100 feet, 150 feet, 200 feet, and the endpoint is 209 feet from the beginning point. So we also can see that I kind of have this dashed red line, but in between the dashes is this white line. That means I have two lines on top of each other. If I select one of these lines, of course I have my selection access turned on, and I can choose either the line or the alignment. Okay, so now let's go and modify this and create offsets from it. So I'm going to navigate back so I have this kind of consistent view. And I am going to use alignment, create offset alignments. And the first thing I'm being asked by Civil 3D is, well, what's the base alignment? I'm going to choose this, choose that I want to use the alignment, and I get this dialog box. And in this dialog box, I can choose what alignment I want to use as my base, right? I've already clicked it, and I only have one in my project currently. What do I want to name it? Well, Civil's giving me a bunch of code here saying it's going to use the parent. It's going to say which side it's on and what's the distance. And I'm fine with that. Then it is, what's the length of my offset alignment? So normally we definitely want to go from start all the way to end, but just to demonstrate the difference, I'm going to say I want to start 10 feet past the beginning line and stop, well, I'll stop at the end. And we'll see what that effect is. How many offsets do I want on the left? One. I want edge of pavement. And on the right, edge of pavement is 1. My street is 10 feet wide from the center line on both sides. You can see that from the PDF. What site do I want to place this on? Now notice that number 88 is already selected. Civil is assuming that my offset alignments are going to be on the same site as the parent alignment. Notice I can't change that. Okay. What kind do I want? I want them to be offset. What layer do they want to go on? I don't care. And do I want any labels? No, I really don't. So I'm going to click OK. And I have two more lines that are parallel to the original. I'm going to navigate to model space, and we can see that those offset alignments don't start down here. They start in from the endpoint, and they go all the way to the end. Just demonstrating what that choice was that we made back in our dialog box. But I'm still showing the whole road extending out on past the edges of the viewport, which is what I'm looking for. Okay, we've now created our second Civil 3D element. And so before I close this video, I'm going to review the prospector a little bit. So I have sites. I'm going to expand 88 block 700. And now notice that there is a plus by alignments. That means that there's actually some content under alignments. If I expand that, I can see that I have center line and offset alignments. And if I expand center line, I can see that I have 103rd Street. To show something that gives me a blank site, I'm going to expand this example that I created. And let's see, alignments, if I expand, notice there's nothing under here that has a plus in it. There's no actual objects in this 89 Rob's example. The only objects are up in 88,700. So if I expand offset, I should see a left and a right. So I'm going to minimize alignments, and notice also that parcels has a plus. And if I look down in 89 example, no plus. If I expand parcels, I see property number 1. So what's happening is you're starting to see that this prospector is like Revit's project browser, right? It shows us where we have content in our project. One last example I will do is head up to, let's see, I was thinking, let's see, I'll go to alignments. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I will go back down to settings. I will expand general. I will expand label styles. And now let's look at these line, and notice that you have this small gold triangle by bearing over distance. Well, it means that we actually have some content in there, and we do. We have a whole bunch of parcel labels. And so wherever we see something that we can expand, we know there's content in there. All right. Hopefully this has been helpful, and we will close this section out. We'll see you in future sections.